May and the EchoFox support.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Adrian. Congratulations on that win, finishing the week 2-0, undefeated in the split. I have to ask you, how were you guys able to rally together in that game and make that comeback?
Yeah, like, even when we fell behind, we talked that we could always come back because TSM mid-late game was really weak when we see previously because they were really slow with their actions and like they let us come back really easy. So we were really confident coming back in if we were behind.
I want to ask you a little bit about the bot lane duo. You and Altec, you've played together for a while now, and you guys have been super successful. So what makes your bot lane so great?
I think we just have amazing synergy, and like we always want to do the things together because we're just really good at the game, and we like playing with each other.
And these games are definitely exciting for the fans to watch. Yesterday, Dardoch said that he was having a lot of fun with the games. Are you having fun with the games? And if so, does that affect your play at all?
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying myself. Like, this is a really fun meta. It's not really fun, but like our team is really good, so we're having fun because we're not scared like other teams, and we make plays when we can. So yeah, it's been really fun for EchoFox.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about TSM, the opponents that you guys played today. You played against them last year as well. With all the new changes, is the TSM that you played today, do you think, an upgrade or a downgrade from last year?
I still think it's an upgrade. I just think it will take a long time to get together because I think they're just having miscommunication problems right now. So I think by the playoffs, they'll be really strong.
Well, thank you so much for this interview. And to wrap up the games, we're going to hear it from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. A lot of confidence in the TSM squad from their opponents in terms of where they might get by the end of the split. But, Jat, we set up the win conditions for these teams. What happened for TSM? Things were looking so good for so long in that game.
Get a favorite matchup top lane. EchoFox will fight you when you're ahead. Then you'll win those fights, right?
Right?
Guys?
Those two things happened. The two things you laid out happened, but there was a breakdown somewhere.
There was.
Dardoch played out of his mind. Maybe not right away, but later on he started smashing
his late game was disgusting on the Zac, but I kind of want to work through the game as it pertained to these win conditions. So let's go straight to that top lane. Let's look at this Vladimir versus GP matchup.
This is how I think the GP should be punished by a lot of teams with the Vladimir and with a little bit of ganking early, because as soon as you hit 6, there's not much the GP can do. I think Huni misplayed that a little bit because he had stopwatch and flash up, but once you get that lead, Haunter at a 7-minute Frost Queen's claim, you just get a bunch of extra gold and continue to punish.
And that's the thing, continue to punish. So even though he saved his stopwatch, you're saying, well, he has flash and stopwatch, so even if he went down, he can save it for later. But the Vladimir's too far ahead at this point. He starts getting solo kills once what you saw CLG kind of try and do yesterday, where you start flipping attention down to the bot lane. They just didn't execute down the bot side from CLG. Here, TSM was getting leads in the bot side after getting Haunter super far ahead, dominated Huni for taking that blind pick GP.
Yeah, and it was a brawl early that Haunter was winning, but then as the game progressed, like, you really got to see how well EchoFox was dealing with TSM's leads. Like, when they were finding the engages, they were almost always catching Bjergsen early on in the fights. They were always focusing Haunter when he was targetable in those fights, which is really difficult to do when you're working around Pool, the heal he gets from his ultimate, as well as his Zhonya's. But so many of those fights, Haunter would be in the middle of it and then popped because everyone was just bursting him at the right moments.
I mean, but you called it, right? The fact that EchoFox would be the team that's looking for the fights, rather, regardless of where, you know, their position in terms of a gold lead. So even from a deficit, still being the ones to take the initiations and eventually finding some fights that would break open the game, buy them a Baron or two, and open up the space for Dardoch to start doing work on the Zac.
Absolutely, and this is why Dardoch is such a monster on the Zac. He goes for this engage, doesn't land it perfectly at the start, but watch how he threads a Q past Haunter on to Sven, who has no ult or flash available anymore, tries to shift out. He's already dead. Now Haunter is alone. Front line's completely abandoning him. This is after that they picked off Malzahar Bjergsen at the start of this replay. So overall, once they kind of stabilized the game a little bit off of a bot lane defense, every single time it was Dardoch starting things off and finding key members. And even if he didn't necessarily pull them into his team, he out frontlined the entire side of TSM. There was never a time where Haunter lived longer or Mike Young was living longer.
Yeah, it felt like it too. And I mean, Huni recovered. Like that is why I think as well so many people are still willing to early pick the Gangplank, because even if you're getting blasted early, like you're getting your gold, you're getting your items, and then he was a beast in team fights. Seemingly, taken to a sliver of health every single time,
Yep.
never dying and continuing to stay in the fight.
That brings us to the final fight. Of course, the game did extend for a fair number of minutes afterwards, but one more time, an extended brawl here to close out the game for EchoFox.
Just reminding, that's Dardoch into a turret. He pulls the front line. You think maybe it hasn't worked, but then just they reestablish their own front line so quickly. Bjergsen never able to get a fatal ultimate off. And here, this was super perplexing to me, right? No one is actually focusing the Zac as much as they should because I think they're expecting a teleport from Huni, but it never comes in. And at that point, EchoFox just keeps the pressure up.
Yeah, I mean, Zac effectively one-man zoned that fight.
The whole team.
For a solid 40, 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah, and once his Warmog starts going, gets starting healthy again, jumps right back on Bjergsen. They get that kill, and he keeps leading them to these kills. Good, pretty good play out of Phoenix over the course of this game. I wouldn't say it was ideal, but it shows the strength of the champion and why a lot of people don't want to leave Zoe up. You don't even really need to play it optimally to find a lot of kills and damage over the course of the game. Nope. He was a big factor in stalling the game out until Dardoch was the one kind of carrying them. So yeah, it was a good show by the mid-jungle duo of EchoFox yet again.
Yeah, and how many of those elastic slingshots are right on the money by Dardoch time and time again. Phoenix had a pretty good performance on Zoe. We were actually saying it was one of the more, quote, underwhelming Zoes, but you look up, he has the most damage on the team, had probably the best KDA as well. So he was landing enough really clutch drowsies in team fights to pull it over the top. And, I mean, looking at the goal graph of that game, absolutely a squandered lead by TSM. This is a game that should have been a win after 35 minutes.
Yes. This is a situation where we are somewhat critical of TSM's aggressiveness and playmaking. They had a pretty huge lead at 22 minutes, and Jad and I were like, hey, if they get a Baron before 30 and start pushing down some inhibs, that's great. And they did exactly that. So it felt like they were 100% on pace for this game before it just started coming off the rails as EchoFox picked the fights, and they were always the one picking the fights. You never saw the Jarvan Malzahar blow somebody up after catching them out of position.
Yeah, and there's two elements to this, right? As even Adrian alluded to in the interview, TSM clearly is slow in the late game. And EchoFox is the fastest team at making decisions and sticking to that call. So going for the Baron, jumping for those fights, it did not work to their detriment this game. It was to their benefit, and that's why they won.
Yeah, I mean, you heard yesterday in the player stream, Huni always yelling Baron. They find that one pick off on
Huni
Bjergsen.
was shot calling the game from the player lounge, which was fantastic to hear, but you can see how that kind of energy and the quick thinking that Huni can bring to a team can really help propel a team forward when it comes to taking advantages. Up next, we've got Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves. That game starts up after the break. We'll see you soon.